A millionaire hears a 12-year-old girl say, "I know you. Your photo is on my mother's tombstone," and it leaves him in shock because he was infertile. If this story moved you, tap the button, subscribe for more heartfelt tales, and let us know in the comments which moment surprised you the most. The morning mist hung thick over Central Park as Michael Hartwood pushed himself harder, his designer running shoes hitting the pavement with rhythmic precision. At 45, the tech mogul maintained his athletic build through early morning runs that gave him clarity before facing another day of boardroom battles. "Excuse me," a young voice called out. Michael turned to see a girl, no more than 12, standing by the running path. Her worn coat and scuffed sneakers told a story of struggle, but her piercing blue eyes held an intensity that made him pause. "Yes?" he asked, pulling out his earbuds. "Are you Michael Hartwood?" Her question was direct, confident. "I am." He glanced at his Apple Watch. "How can I help you?" "I found something that belongs to you." She held up a smartphone photo. "Actually, I need you to see something. It's important." Most mornings, Michael would have politely declined and continued his run. But something in the girl's unwavering gaze kept him rooted in place. "What's your name?" he asked. "Sarah. Sarah Ellis." She shifted nervously from foot to foot. "I've been waiting here every morning for 2 weeks hoping to find you." "Find me for what exactly?" "There's a grave. In Queens. My mother's grave. Your picture is on it." Michael felt his pulse quicken. "That's impossible. I don't know anyone who's—" "Grace Matthews," Sarah interrupted. "Ring any bells?" The name hit him like a thunderbolt. Grace. His mind raced back 24 years to a whirlwind romance that had ended as quickly as it began. She'd vanished without explanation, leaving him heartbroken and wondering what he'd done wrong. "Grace?" he whispered. "Yes." "And the date on her headstone." "She died 2 months after I was born." "The math is pretty clear, Mr. Hartwood." Michael's legs felt weak. His doctor had confirmed years ago that he was infertile after his accident. This couldn't be real. "Take me there," he said, surprising himself. "Show me this grave." Sarah's shoulders relaxed slightly as if she'd been holding her breath. "It's in Garden Cemetery. I can lead you there." 45 minutes later, Michael stood before a modest granite headstone, his world tilting on its axis. There, engraved alongside Grace's name and dates, was a photograph from 1995. Him, younger, happier, arm around a radiant Grace at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. He remembered that day perfectly. It was their second month together before everything fell apart. "She kept our picture," he murmured, touching the cold stone. "She kept everything," Sarah said quietly. "And she told me stories about you. The brilliant man who loved art and numbers, who made her laugh, who promised her everything." Michael knelt beside the grave, emotions flooding through him. If Grace died 8 weeks after Sarah's birth, the timeline added up with terrifying accuracy. But how? His sterility diagnosis had been definitive. "Sarah," he said carefully, "what do you remember about your father?" "Nothing. Mom said he didn't know about me, that it was for the best." Her voice caught. "But I found your picture in her things after she died last year. I had to find you." Michael stood, his mind reeling with questions that demanded answers. One thing was certain. His carefully structured life had just been shattered by a revelation that challenged everything he thought he knew about his past. Michael sat in his Fifth Avenue study, the photograph Sarah had shown him spread across his mahogany desk. Grace's smile haunted him. That same radiant expression he'd fallen in love with decades ago. The Manhattan skyline glittered beyond his window, but he saw only memories. Grace. God. How he'd loved her. They'd met at a charity gala, both strangers, who'd snuck away to the museum's sculpture garden to escape the crowd. 3 magical months followed, stolen weekends in Connecticut, midnight walks through Central Park, planning a future together. Then suddenly silence. His sister Jackie had explained. Grace wanted money, not love. The letters Jackie showed him proved it. Lies, Michael whispered now, crushing one of the forged letters Jackie had kept. All lies. His phone buzzed. Dr. Peterson returning his call. Michael, you asked about your fertility records from '96? Yes, was I definitely infertile? Papers rustled. Interesting. The notes say severely impaired but not impossible. There was a 5% chance, especially with proper conditions. The phone slipped from Michael's trembling hand. 5%. Not zero. Jackie had led him to believe otherwise, using the accident as ammunition against Grace. That accident, the night he'd sped away after fighting with Jackie about Grace, the crash that left him broken and believing he'd never father children. How convenient for his controlling sister. Sarah's face flashed in his mind, those piercing blue eyes exactly like Grace's. The determined set of her jaw reminded him of himself. Sarah, he muttered, tasting the name for the first time as his daughter's daughter. The word struck him like lightning. For 24 years he'd mourned lost fatherhood while his child grew up without him. Every missed birthday, school play, bedtime story, all stolen by deception. Michael grabbed his coat. He needed to see Sarah again to understand everything, but first he had accounts to settle with the family member who'd manipulated them all. Jackie had protected him, she'd claimed, saved him from a gold digger, but at what cost? A daughter lost, a love destroyed. 12 years of Sarah growing up without her father. It was time for truth, painful as it might be. The following morning, Michael faced the locked filing cabinet in Jackie's old study. His sister had moved to Paris years ago, but her office remained untouched, a shrine to her controlling influence over his life. With trembling hands, he pried it open with a letter opener. "Come on, Jackie," he muttered. "What else did you hide?" The first discovery made his blood boil. Bank statements showing quarterly payments to Grace M. Chicago, all authorized by Jackie's signature. $50,000 every 3 months for years after Grace supposedly disappeared. She was paying her off, Michael whispered. But why Chicago? Grace lived in New York. His phone rang. Sarah. Mr. Hartwood? I wanted to say sorry if I upset you yesterday. Sarah. His voice gentled. You did nothing wrong. Can I see you today? There are things I need to tell you about your mother. They met at a small cafe near Central Park. Sarah arrived, carrying a faded leather portfolio. Mom's keeper of memories, she explained, setting it between them. Inside lay photographs, letters, hospital records. She had a heart condition, Sarah continued. Congenital, but she hid it from everyone, even me, until the end. The pregnancy made it worse, but she refused treatments that might hurt me. Michael studied a photo from the hospital. Grace, radiant despite her obvious illness, holding newborn Sarah. Another showed the same piercing blue eyes in both mother and daughter. Did she mention me often? All the time. She said you were brilliant, kind, but that circumstances kept you apart. She never said what circumstances. Michael's jaw clenched. I was lied to, Sarah, by someone I trusted. Your mother and I. We loved each other deeply, but my sister intercepted our communications, forged letters, manipulated us both. Sarah's eyes widened. Your sister did this? Jackie convinced me Grace was a gold digger, showed me fake letters demanding money. After I had an accident, she used my medical condition as another reason to keep us apart. His voice broke. I've been mourning you and your mother for years, believing I could never have children. Sarah reached across the table, her small hand covering his. Mom kept all your pictures, every article about your business. She said you'd find us when the time was right. I should have fought harder, Michael said. I should have never believed Jackie without confronting Grace myself. What happens now? Sarah asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Michael looked at this extraordinary girl, his daughter who'd spent weeks tracking him down, who carried her mother's courage in her young heart. Now, he said firmly, We build the relationship we should have had all along, if you'll have me as your father. 4. The first time since they'd met, Sarah smiled. Grace's smile mixed with something uniquely her own. I already do, she said. Michael stormed through the lobby of his sister's Manhattan office building. Though Jackie worked remotely from Paris, she maintained a corporate suite for New York visits. He'd scheduled a video call, but needed the privacy of her office to face her properly. Michael. Jackie's polished face appeared on the monitor, her French apartment visible behind her. What's this emergency about? Sarah, he said flatly, watching her freeze. Grace's daughter. My daughter. The color drained from Jackie's face. I don't know what you're... Stop. His voice cut through her denial. I found everything. The payments. The intercepted letters. The lies about the accident, my sterility, all of it. Jackie's composure cracked. I was protecting you. That woman wanted your money, Michael. She was manipulating you. She was carrying my child. Michael slammed his fist on the desk. While you were protecting me, I lost 12 years with my daughter. Grace died alone, believing I'd abandoned her. I sent money, Jackie defended. After I found out about the pregnancy, I made sure they were provided for. What more could I have done? You could have told me the truth. Let me make my own decisions. Jackie's usual confidence wavered. You were young, vulnerable. She would have destroyed you, taken everything. Michael stared at his sister's image. Instead, you destroyed my chance at real happiness. Sarah grew up without her father. Grace died thinking I didn't care. I did what I thought was best. For whom? For me or for your control over my life? He leaned forward. You've always needed to manage everything about me. College, career, relationships. When will it be enough? Jackie was silent for a long moment. I see her mother in her, she finally said. In the photos, they have the same look. Yes, the look of someone fighting against all odds. Something you'd understand if you weren't so busy arranging other people's lives. What happens now? Jackie asked, her voice small. I'm being a father. Sarah deserves that much. As for us. Michael paused, searching for words. I need time. To understand why you did this, to forgive maybe, but not to forget. Michael, please. He ended the call, leaving Jackie's pleas unanswered. The truth was out, but the damage spanned decades. Could a family torn apart by lies ever truly heal? Later that day, he met Sarah's grandparents, Grace's parents, who'd raised Sarah since Grace's death. Martha Matthews welcomed him with guarded warmth while Frederick remained wary. We weren't sure if finding you was the right thing, Martha admitted over tea. Grace protected your memory so carefully, but Sarah needed to know her father. I need to know her too, Michael assured them. And to make up for lost time, Frederick spoke finally. Don't overwhelm her. She's been through enough loss. Michael nodded, understanding the weight of their trust. This wasn't just about him and Sarah. It was about honoring Grace's memory and building a bridge between families separated by deception. That evening, as Manhattan's lights twinkled below his penthouse, Michael realized his journey to redemption had just begun. Sarah met him at a diner in Queens, her choice. No fancy restaurants, no corporate boardrooms, just a booth with vinyl seats and milkshakes on the menu. Mom used to bring me here, she explained, sliding into the seat. It was our Friday tradition. Michael ordered 2 vanilla milkshakes, watching Sarah's surprised smile. She'd expected him to order something sophisticated, but he remembered. Grace loved vanilla everything. Tell me about her, he said. The real Grace, not the one I imagined during our separation. Sarah's eyes lit up. She worked double shifts as a nurse but never missed my school events. Made pancakes every Sunday shaped like animals, terrible singer, but sang to me anyway. She laughed. And she drank coffee at midnight while reading medical journals. She was studying to specialize, Michael recalled. Pediatric cardiology. Yes. She said children's hearts were special. literally and figuratively. That's why she chose to have me despite the risks. Michael felt a lump in his throat. Grace had risked everything for their child while he'd been wallowing in self-pity, believing Jackie's lies. Your grandparents mentioned you're a good student, he said. Straight A's. Math's my favorite. Gets it from you, Mom said. Actually, you get your mathematical mind from both sides. Grace had an incredible aptitude for numbers. She just preferred using them to save lives. They talked for hours, sharing stories that bridged the gap between their separate worlds. Sarah showed him photos on her phone, herself at science fairs, school plays, playing piano. Each image represented a moment he'd missed, but also a future they could build together. Can I ask you something? Sarah's expression turned serious. Anything. Why? Didn't you ever consider Grace might have a good reason for leaving? The question struck home. Pride, he admitted. And trust issues. When someone presents you with evidence that feels real, it's easier to believe than to dig deeper. Sarah nodded slowly. Mom had trust issues too. That's why she didn't try harder to reach you after Jackie's letters. She thought protecting us was better than risking more heartbreak. We both made mistakes. No, Sarah corrected. You were both victims. The real mistake was loving someone who used that love to control you. Her insight amazed him. This 12-year-old understood complexities some adults never grasped. As they left the diner, Sarah suddenly asked, "Do you play chess?" "I do." "Why?" "Mom taught me. Said it was your favorite game." Michael's heart swelled. "Want to play sometime? I might be rusty." "Sure. But I should warn you, I'm really good." Walking together toward her grandparents' house, Michael realized redemption tasted like vanilla milkshakes and felt like the comfortable silence between a father and daughter discovering each other for the first time. The DNA test results lay on Michael's desk. 99.99% paternal match. Scientific proof of what his heart already knew. Sarah was officially his daughter, but merging their worlds proved more challenging than sharing blood. "Dad, this is too much," Sarah said, standing in the sprawling Long Island Estates guest wing. He'd prepared a room with everything a 12-year-old might want. State-of-the-art gaming systems, designer furniture, even a canopy bed. It looked like a showroom, sterile and overwhelming. "I wanted you to be comfortable," Michael responded, deflated. Mom's apartment was smaller than this bathroom. "I feel lost here." The truth hit hard. He'd been trying to compensate with luxury instead of understanding her needs. When he suggested shopping at Bergdorf's, she asked for the Barnes & Noble on 86th Street. He offered a Hamptons weekend. She wanted pizza in Central Park. One Friday evening, Sarah's frustration boiled over. "You missed 12 years of my life. You can't buy them back with stuff." Michael sat on the guest room bed, overwhelmed. "I know, I don't know how to be a father. Teach me." Sarah sat beside him, softer now. "Mom used to say the best gifts were moments. Like when I had nightmares, she'd make hot chocolate and read Matilda until I fell asleep. Or Sunday mornings at the Brooklyn Museum's family workshops. What else? Did she do that made you feel safe? She let me help in the kitchen even when I made mistakes. We'd watch old movies on stormy nights. She taught me to save change in a jar for dream adventures. Small trips to new places." Michael pulled out his phone, typing notes. "Okay. Hot chocolate, reading together, cooking lessons, movie nights. What about your friends?" "They're at my regular school. I don't want to change." Another revelation. He'd assumed she'd transfer to a prestigious private school. But Sarah valued stability over prestige. "Can we compromise?" he asked. "Stay at your school, but maybe we establish some new routines? I could drive you sometimes, learn your neighborhood." Sarah's smile was worth every humbling lesson. And, "We can do chess in the study." Mom would love knowing we found that connection. In the following weeks, Michael learned more about parenting than any book could teach. He discovered Sarah was lactose intolerant, something he should have known. He learned she preferred indie music to classical, wrote short stories in secret, and still slept with a stuffed elephant Grace had given her at birth. The breakthrough. came during a disastrous attempt at making pancakes. Flour covered the kitchen, but Sarah laughed freely for the first time. "This is what Mom meant," she said, flipping a misshapen pancake. "Memories aren't perfect, they're real." Michael realized then that fatherhood wasn't about providing perfection, but about showing up authentically. Even his mistakes could become bridges between them, as long as he remained present and genuine. That night, after Sarah fell asleep during their movie, Michael placed a blanket over her. In that simple gesture, he found the beginning of the father he needed to become. Michael stood before Grace Memorial Hospital's cardiac wing, Sarah by his side. Grace's former colleagues had invited them to visit, sharing stories that painted a fuller picture of the woman he'd lost. "Your mother was extraordinary," Dr. Chen, the department head, explained. "She revolutionized our approach to high-risk pregnancies with cardiac complications. Even while carrying you, Sarah, she developed protocols that saved dozens of mothers." They toured the hallway where Grace's photograph hung among other honorees. Michael touched the frame, tears welling. "She refused extensive treatments during her pregnancy," Nurse Patricia added. "Said any risk to Sarah outweighed her own survival. By the time you were born, her heart was severely compromised." Michael felt crushed by admiration and guilt. Grace had sacrificed everything for their daughter while he'd nursed wounded pride and believed the worst of her. "We want to honor her. Work," Michael declared that afternoon in Dr. Chen's office. "Create something that extends her legacy." Dr. Chen leaned forward. "What did you have in mind?" "The Grace Matthews Maternal Cardiac Care Center, state-of-the-art facility for high-risk mothers. Fund research, provide free care for underserved communities." Sarah squeezed his hand. "Mom would love that." As they developed plans, Michael learned Grace had quietly helped families afford medical care, often using her own paycheck. Her kindness rippled through the hospital community. "There's something else." Dr. Chen retrieved a sealed envelope. "Grace left this in case you ever appeared. She updated it annually." With trembling fingers, Michael opened it. Inside, Grace's familiar handwriting. "My dearest Michael, if you're reading this, you found Sarah. Thank you. I know Jackie's interference hurt us both, but I chose silence to protect what I couldn't bear to lose twice, your love and trust. Sarah carries your brilliant mind and my stubborn heart. Help her become everything we dreamed of together. I never stopped loving you. Grace." Sarah read, over his shoulder, tears streaming. "She waited for you, even at the end." That night, Michael called an emergency board meeting. He announced redirecting significant company resources toward maternal health care. Critics warned of financial risks, but Michael remembered Grace's courage and stood firm. "Money recreates itself," he addressed his board. "Missed opportunities with family don't." As he left the hospital, Michael made another decision. He'd relocate his primary office to the hospital complex. Sarah could visit after school, see her mother's workplace firsthand, understand the legacy she inherited. Walking hand in hand with his daughter, Michael felt Grace's presence in the crisp autumn air. They were building something together, not just a medical center, but a bridge between past regrets and future possibilities. "Dad?" Sarah asked. "Do you think Mom knows we found each other?" Michael looked at the hospital windows, reflecting the setting sun. "I think she always knew. She just needed us to find our own way there." The for sale sign appeared outside Michael's Upper East Side mansion, shocking his social circle. But as he toured modest brownstones in Queens, Sarah's excitement grew. "This one has a porch," she pointed out at a charming 3-story on a tree-lined street. "And it's only 20 minutes from Grandma and Grandpa." "You're sure about this?" Michael asked. Moving to Queens represented more than changing zip codes. It meant embracing a different lifestyle, one focused on community over status. "Mom always said home isn't about size, it's about who's in it." They chose a brownstone with built-in bookshelves and a backyard perfect for a chess table. Sarah claimed the second floor, insisting they paint it together. Watching her select colors, Michael realized he'd missed countless milestones. First day of school anxieties, friendship dramas, growth spurts marked on door frames. One Saturday afternoon, while unpacking Sarah's belongings, she unveiled a battered chess set. Mom bought this at a thrift store, said it belonged in our family. The pieces were mismatched, some hand-carved, others different colors. It's perfect, Michael said, setting up the board. Their first game revealed Sarah wasn't boasting. She was brilliant. As they played, she shared stories. How Grace worked night shifts to afford music lessons. How she'd spend summers at the community center while Grace ran free health clinics. She wanted me to have opportunities, Sarah explained, but not lose touch with reality. Michael's phone buzzed. Jackie calling from Paris. He hesitated before answering. Michael, I heard about the move. Are you sure this is wise? Wiser than anything I've done in years, he replied, watching Sarah arrange her stuffed animals. But the society pages aren't raising my daughter or helping me be a better father. He paused. Jackie, I'm not angry anymore. I understand your intentions, however misguided, but I'm building a new life now. After the call, Sarah looked up. Aunt Jackie? She's struggling to understand my changes. People change when they find what matters, Sarah observed. Mom changed after having me. You're changing now. Her wisdom astounded him daily. This girl who'd grown up without her biological father possessed emotional intelligence beyond her years. That evening, as they grilled burgers in the backyard, Michael noticed neighbors waving. Martha and Frederick arrived with homemade potato salad, creating an impromptu dinner party. Sarah laughed freely, playing with neighborhood kids, while Martha shared Grace stories that painted vivid pictures of her daughter's childhood. You're building something beautiful, Martha whispered later, watching Sarah teach other kids chess on the back porch. Sarah's building it, Michael corrected. I'm just finally showing up. As Sarah fell asleep that night, she called him to her bedside. Dad? Yes? This feels right. Like we're where we're supposed to be. Tucking her in, Michael realized she was correct. Home wasn't his penthouse with Central Park views or the mansion in the Hamptons. Home was a brownstone in Queens where his daughter felt safe, where memories of Grace lived comfortably alongside new traditions they were creating together. For the first time in decades, Michael Hartwood was truly home. Michael entered the boardroom of Hartwood Enterprises with unprecedented clarity. His company, built on algorithms and market predictions, was about to pivot dramatically. Gentlemen, ladies, we're restructuring, he announced. Medical technology, specifically maternal cardiac care, will become our primary focus. Jonathan Price, his CFO, raised an eyebrow. That's quite a departure from our core competencies. Our core competency is problem solving, Michael countered, and I found a problem worth solving. Sarah sat in a guest chair taking notes. He'd invited her to understand business, but her presence reminded everyone why this mattered. There's a gap in affordable, accessible cardiac monitoring for pregnant women in underserved communities, Michael continued. We'll develop wearable technology that tracks vital signs, alerts for anomalies, connects directly to healthcare providers. The profit margins, Price began, will be secondary to impact, Michael interrupted. Sarah, explain the market need. Sarah stood confidently. In communities like mine, women often can't afford regular cardiac screening during pregnancy. By the time problems are detected, it's sometimes too late. My mother's case could have been different with early, consistent monitoring. The room fell silent. This 12-year-old articulated the mission with more conviction than any market analysis could provide. Outside the boardroom, Sarah grinned. That was intense. You were amazing, Michael said. Want to see the design lab? There, engineers explained their prototype, a lightweight band measuring heart rhythm, blood pressure, and oxygen levels. Data would transmit to both healthcare providers and family members. Could it have helped Mom? Sarah asked softly. Possibly, the lead engineer responded gently. Early detection saves lives. Michael squeezed her shoulder, understanding the weight of what if she carried. That evening, they drafted plans for the Grace Matthews Technology Initiative. Mobile units would visit underserved neighborhoods, providing free screenings and education. The devices would cost nothing to qualifying families. Rich people can afford health care, Sarah observed, helping design marketing materials. We need to reach people who work 2 jobs just to put food on the table. Her insight drove every decision. When investors balked at reduced profit projections, Michael stood firm. This company made billions predicting market trends. Now we're investing in saving lives. I'd say that's a pretty good return. Within months, the first devices rolled out. Feedback poured in from grateful families. One letter particularly moved them, from a woman whose irregular heartbeat was detected at 20 weeks, allowing for early intervention that saved both her and her baby. Mom would be proud, Sarah said, reading success stories at their kitchen table. Michael looked at his daughter, amazed by her strength. She'd lost so much yet transformed that loss into purpose. Together they weren't just building a business. They were creating a legacy that honored Grace's memory, while preventing other children from experiencing Sarah's loss. As they worked side by side, drafting plans for the medical center, Michael realized he wasn't just redeeming his past. He was investing in a future where daughters wouldn't have to grow up without their mothers, where fathers wouldn't miss precious years due to deception, where technology served hearts, both literal and metaphorical. The Grace Matthews Medical Center rose from the ground where the old community center once stood. Sarah insisted on a cornerstone ceremony, inviting everyone who'd known her mother. My mom helped this community through her nursing, Sarah spoke from the makeshift podium, her voice steady despite nerves. This center will continue her work, making sure no mother has to choose between her life and her child's. Michael stood in the crowd, proud beyond words. Martha wiped tears beside him, while Frederick nodded approvingly. Even Jackie had sent a formal apology letter, though she hadn't returned from Paris. Dr. Chen unveiled plans for the state-of-the-art cardiac wing. The Grace Matthews Maternal Care Unit will offer specialized monitoring, emergency intervention, and comprehensive support for mothers with cardiac conditions. After the ceremony, Sarah grabbed Michael's arm. Can we add something? A library room where kids can wait while their moms get checkups, with comfortable chairs and books about brave mothers? Absolutely. Michael's heart swelled. His daughter understood design thinking intuitively, seeing needs others missed. That evening, they worked on the hospital layout. Sarah sketched a play area resembling where Grace used to take her during hospital visits. I'd do homework while Mom worked late shifts, she explained. Other kids were there too, waiting for their parents. It was lonely sometimes. We'll make it welcoming, Michael promised. What else would have helped? Windows that open, plants that don't die, maybe a small garden where families can have picnics. As they consulted architects, Sarah's ideas proved brilliant. The waiting areas felt more like community spaces. Natural light flooded pediatric wards. Gardens provided healing spaces for grieving families. Construction began rapidly. Michael redirected more company resources, selling his yacht and private jet. The media questioned his fiscal responsibility, but he responded simply, "My priorities have changed." 6 months later, during a site visit, Sarah touched his arm. "Dad, can I tell you something?" "Always. I used to be angry at you for not being there, but now I understand. Sometimes the biggest mistakes lead to the most important changes." Her forgiveness felt like a weight lifting. "Your mother saw something in me worth fighting for. I'm just grateful I found my way back." To both of you, a construction worker approached. "Mr. Hartwood, we need your input on the memorial wall." They'd planned a tribute to Grace and other mothers who'd lost their battles with cardiac complications. Sarah had insisted on including photos and stories, not just names. Each mother saved lives through their sacrifice, she said firmly. We should honor their whole stories. Michael watched his daughter's determination with awe. At 12, she possessed wisdom many adults lacked. Grace had left him more than a daughter. She'd given him a teacher, a guide back to his better self. As sunset painted the construction site gold, Michael and Sarah climbed scaffolding to view their progress. The medical center emerged like Grace's dream taking physical form. "We're doing something good, Dad," Sarah said, leaning against him. "We are, sweetheart. We really are." The accident site hadn't changed much in 24 years. Michael stood at the intersection where his car had wrapped around a lamppost, the place where his life had supposedly been forever altered. Sarah stood beside him, holding his hand. "Is this where they said you became infertile?" she asked, squeezing gently. "Where I believed I had," Michael corrected. "I was speeding away from another argument with Jackie about Grace, hit a patch of ice, lost control. Dr. Rahman, the therapist they now saw together, had suggested confronting this physical place. "Trauma lives in our bodies and spaces," she'd explained. "Sometimes we need to face the geography of our pain." "What was the fight about?" Sarah asked. Jackie had intercepted a letter from Grace, one I never knew existed. I'd found it by accident, hidden in Jackie's desk. "I confronted her. She defended herself. I stormed out." Michael's voice grew thick. "The last thing I remember clearly was Jackie screaming that Grace would destroy me. Then headlights, metal, darkness." Sarah guided him to a nearby bench. "And then?" "Weeks of recovery. Jackie by my bedside explaining my injuries had made children impossible. Grace had disappeared, supposedly moved to California. I believed every word. A memory surfaced. Jackie crying at his hospital bed, extracting a promise to cut off all contact with Grace. "For your own good," his sister had pleaded. Too broken to fight, he'd agreed. "Do you think Jackie felt guilty?" Sarah asked. "Maybe. That's why she tried so hard to control everything." "Possibly." Michael considered his sister's actions through a new lens. She was 19 when our father died. Suddenly responsible for a 16-year-old brother. Maybe she developed these protective patterns. They sat in comfortable silence, watching traffic pass the fateful spot. Michael felt something shift. Not forgiveness exactly, but understanding. "I spoke to my therapist about Aunt Jackie," Sarah revealed. "We talked about how some people hurt others while trying to help. Like how my friend Emma's mom wouldn't let her do anything because she lost another child to cancer." Michael looked at his remarkable daughter. "When did you become so wise?" "Mom was amazing at seeing people's hearts. She taught me that understanding doesn't mean accepting bad behavior, but it helps us move forward." Later that day, Michael made a decision he'd been avoiding. He video called Jackie, who appeared immediately on screen. "Michael, is everything all right?" "I'm at the accident site," he said simply. "With Sarah." Jackie paled. "Oh, I understand now why you did what you did. Not that I agree with it, but I see the fear that drove your choices." "I thought I was protecting you," Jackie whispered. "From heartbreak, from being used. Instead, you protected me from love and fatherhood." He paused. "But we can't change the past. We can only decide how to move forward." "What do you want?" "Michael? I want my sister back. Not the one who makes decisions for me, but the one who supports them. Sarah deserves to know her aunt, the real you, not the controlling guardian who shaped my life." Jackie's tears flowed freely. "I've missed. You missed being family. Then let's start again. Honestly this time." After the call, Sarah hugged him. "That was brave, Dad. You give me courage." He returned the embrace, marveling at how this child of his heart had grown stronger through adversity. That evening, as they played chess in their queen's kitchen, Michael reflected on the day. The accident site no longer held power over him. Jackie was no longer an antagonist in his life story. Grace's memory wasn't a wound, but a blessing that had ultimately brought him to Sarah. "Check," Sarah announced, grinning. Michael studied the board, seeing the elegant trap she'd constructed. Grace had been right. Sarah inherited both their analytical minds, but she'd added something uniquely her own: the ability to turn pain into purpose, loss into opportunity. "Checkmate," he conceded, then asked, "Want to help plan the opening ceremony details tomorrow?" "Only if we can order pizza while we work." "Deal." As Sarah called their favorite pizzeria, Michael felt grateful for these simple moments. Chess games, pizza nights, planning dreams together. These were the memories they were building, replacing the years of separation with new traditions. The past had been rewritten from tragedy to transformation. Now, they were actively writing their future, one shared moment at a time. The Grace. Matthews Medical Center's first anniversary arrived with unexpected news. What began as a single location in Queens had evolved into a movement. Hospitals in Chicago, Detroit, and Miami requested to establish satellite HeartGuard programs. "Dad, we need to visit each city," Sarah insisted, spreading maps across their dining table. "We can't just send equipment. People need to see our faces, know we care." At 13, Sarah had grown into her role as the HeartGuard's emotional core. Her speeches at fundraisers drew tears and donations in equal measure. College was still 5 years away, but universities already noticed her work bridging technology and humanitarian causes. Their first trip to Chicago proved transformative. They met families who'd lost mothers to undiagnosed cardiac issues, stories that mirrored Grace's too closely. Sarah connected immediately with a girl her age who'd recently lost her mother. "I'm so sorry," Sarah said simply, sitting beside the girl during a community center visit. "Did you?" the girl asked, unable to finish. "Yes. When I was 1. But she lives on through what we're building here." Michael watched his daughter offer comfort with an ease that amazed him. She understood loss in ways he'd been too privileged to fathom, before Grace's death redefined his world. In Detroit, they met resistance from a local hospital administrator. "This fancy tech is nice, but our community needs jobs, not charity medical devices." Sarah stood up in the boardroom, surprising everyone. "What if we create those jobs? Dad, we could manufacture components locally, train residents as technicians, establish maintenance centers in each community." The administrator leaned forward, suddenly interested. Michael realized his daughter had just revolutionized their business model. "Sarah's right," he agreed. HeartGuard 2.0, community-sourced, locally manufactured, dignity-preserving healthcare. By Miami, their expansion plan had transformed. They weren't just shipping technology, they were fostering economic ecosystems. Local manufacturing meant jobs. Training programs created career pathways. Partnership with community colleges offered scholarships for biomedical engineering students. "You're not just preventing maternal cardiac deaths," observed Diana Rodriguez, Miami's public health director. "You're changing how communities approach preventive health care." That evening, as they watched sunset over Biscayne Bay, Sarah confided, "Sometimes I wonder if I'm just trying to save other kids from losing their moms like I did." "There's nothing wrong with that motivation," Michael assured her. "Grace would be proud of how you're turning loss into hope." "No," Sarah said firmly. "We're doing this. Both of us. You gave up everything to make this real." "I gave up isolation and self-pity," he corrected. "In return, I got you purpose and family." During flights between cities, they worked side by side. Sarah drafted compassionate form letters for families dealing with loss. Michael reviewed expansion budgets, always increasing community investment percentages at Sarah's insistence. "Profit margins aren't evil," she explained to skeptical investors during video calls, "but they shouldn't come before people's lives." Her emotional intelligence charmed donors while her mathematical precision impressed financial analysts. She'd inherited Grace's heart and Michael's mind, blending them into something uniquely powerful. By summer's end, HeartGuard operated in 8 cities. Each location reflected local culture while maintaining core values. Chicago's facility featured Art Deco elements honoring the city's architecture. Detroit's embraced industrial design celebrating automotive heritage. Miami's incorporated vibrant colors representing its multicultural community. "We're not imposing," Sarah reflected during their return flight. "We're integrating." "Like you integrated into my life," Michael mused. "Not disrupting, but completing." As they touched down in New York, Michael felt profound gratitude. Business travel had once meant rushing between cities with minimal human connection. Now, Each trip deepened his relationship with Sarah while expanding their shared mission. Next year, we add international locations, Sarah suggested as they deplaned. Next year, Michael agreed. We continue changing lives together. Their Queen's brownstone welcomed them home. Neighbors called greetings. The community that had embraced their unusual family unit. Inside, photographs from their travels joined images of Grace, creating a family gallery that spanned past, present, and future. That night, as Sarah fell asleep, after a long day, Michael realized their expansion hadn't just grown heartguard, it had strengthened their bond. Every city visited, every life touched, every system improved had deepened their understanding of each other and their shared purpose. Standing in the doorway of her room, watching his daughter sleep peacefully, Michael knew Grace hadn't just given him a child. She'd given him a partner in changing the world, one heart at a time. The wedding dress felt foreign on Dr. Amelia Carter as she adjusted her veil in the hospital staff room mirror. She wasn't just marrying Michael Hartwood today, she was joining a family with deep scars and extraordinary healing. Nervous? Asked Sarah, now 16, helping with final adjustments. Excited, Amelia corrected. And grateful. Their relationship had begun professionally 18 months earlier. Dr. Carter specialized in pediatric cardiology, exactly what Grace had aspired to become. When she joined the Grace Matthews Medical Center, she'd expected innovative technology and humanitarian mission. She hadn't expected to fall in love with the man creating it all. At first, Michael had dated cautiously, hyper-aware of Sarah's feelings. I don't want another woman to ever replace Grace in your heart, he'd assured his daughter. Dad, Sarah had responded with teenage wisdom. Mom can't be replaced, but we have room for new love. Amelia had won Sarah over through genuine connection, not forced efforts. They bonded over medical journals, shared dark humor about hospital life, and discussed Grace's research papers late into the night. Amelia understood loss. She'd lost her mother to cardiac complications during her own birth. Your mom and mine were warriors, Amelia told Sarah early in their friendship. They gave us life at the cost of theirs. We honor them by living fully. Now, as they walked toward the hospital chapel where the wedding would take place, Sarah squeezed Amelia's hand. Mom chose the best man to love. Thank you for seeing what she saw in him. The ceremony was small, held where Grace had worked her final months. Michael's employees had transformed the cardiac unit's conference room into an elegant venue. Martha and Frederick sat in the front row, tears mixing with smiles. Even Jackie had returned from Paris, standing quietly in the back. As Michael and Amelia exchanged vows, Sarah served as maid of honor. Her speech captivated everyone. My mom once wrote in her journal that true love creates more love. It doesn't diminish when shared. Today, I see what she meant. Amelia doesn't take Dad away from our memories of Mom. She gives us new reasons to celebrate love's power. After the ceremony, Amelia found a moment alone with Jackie. Thank you for coming, she said simply. I needed to, Jackie replied, to see that healing is possible. The reception featured stories from staff who'd known Grace. Dr. Chen raised his glass. Grace believed in second chances. Today, we celebrate that belief made manifest. As the evening wound down, Sarah pulled both Michael and Amelia aside. I have news. Early acceptance to Johns Hopkins biomedical engineering program. They want me to develop cardiac monitoring. AI using our HeartGuard data. That's incredible, Amelia exclaimed. Michael beamed with pride. Grace would be thrilled. Actually, Sarah grinned. I hope she is. I think Mom sent Amelia to us. Someone had to keep teaching me about cardiac innovation while you learned to be a dad. Later, dancing to Unchained Melody, Michael held Amelia close. I proposed something else earlier, he whispered. What's that? Adopting together. There are children in our program who need families, kids who've lost parents to cardiac complications. Amelia pulled back to look at him. You'd expand our family? Grace taught me that love multiplies. Sarah taught me that family isn't limited by blood. The next morning, they found Sarah in the medical center's cafe, discussing cardiac algorithms with young patients. A 5-year-old boy approached Michael, tugging his sleeve. "Mr. Hartwood, my mama uses your heart watch. She's getting better now." Michael knelt to the child's level, overwhelmed by the tangible impact of their work. This was what Grace had envisioned: technology, serving humanity's most vulnerable moments. As Amelia joined them and Sarah translated medical terms into kid-friendly language, Michael felt complete. His family had been broken by deception, healed through discovery, and now expanded through love. That evening, reviewing adoption agency profiles, they selected their first potential addition, twin 7-year-old girls who'd lost their mother to complications similar to Grace's. "They need stability," Sarah observed, studying their photos. "And someone who understands their specific loss." "Think you're ready to be a big sister?" Michael asked. "I've been practicing for years," she laughed. "Just ask the kids at the center." As they prepared to meet the twins, Michael reflected on life's unexpected journeys. His path had twisted through deception, loss, and denial before leading home to love. Now, with Amelia and Sarah, he was building something greater than his original dreams. A family forged not by blood alone, but by choice, healing, and shared purpose. "Grace would love this," he whispered to the evening sky. "She does," Sarah said simply, appearing beside him. "Every heart we save carries a piece of her love forward." Together they stood on their brownstone's porch, ready to welcome new chapters while honoring the past that had brought them together. Love had indeed multiplied, creating an ever-widening circle of hope. 5 years later, Sarah stood at the podium of Johns Hopkins Medical School auditorium, freshly graduated at 21. Her thesis on AI-driven cardiac predictive modeling had revolutionized early intervention protocols. 3 years ago, she began her commencement speech. "My sister Emma asked me why I work so hard. Emma and Sophie are orphans we adopted. They lost their mother the same way I lost mine, to cardiac complications during pregnancy. I told her that every algorithm I create, every device we improve, prevents another child from growing up without their mom." Michael sat in the front row with Amelia, holding 8-year-old Emma and Sophie's hands. The twins had struggled initially with attachment, but family therapy and unconditional love had helped them bloom. Sophie excelled at art, painting heartwarming pictures of their blended family. Emma, the more analytical twin, shadowed Sarah relentlessly, already talking about medical school. "Tonight, Emma will sleep without nightmares because she knows our HeartGuard system monitored our pregnant patients today. Sophie draws pictures of hearts with wings because she understands that love transcends physical presence. These are the victories that matter." After the ceremony, Martha approached with surprising news. "Your grandfather is selling the diner. I have an idea. Turn it into a resource center for mothers. Cooking classes, nutrition workshops, support groups." "Funded by the foundation?" Michael asked eagerly. "Partially, but also community supported. The neighborhood has changed. Young families moving in need gathering spaces." That evening, they celebrated at the transformed diner. Still family-owned, it now featured HeartGuard bracelets as complimentary equipment for pregnant patrons. The jukebox played Grace's favorite songs, while photos of the medical center's impact decorated the walls. Jackie surprised everyone by arriving from Paris. "I've decided to relocate," she announced. "The foundation needs a development director who understands family dynamics gone wrong." Sarah hugged her aunt, appreciating the irony. "Welcome to the chaos." Later, as they walked through Central Park, where Sarah had first approached Michael 7 years ago, memories flooded back. The scared 12-year-old seeking her father had grown into a formidable young woman reshaping maternal health care. "Dad," Sarah said, "I've decided to pursue pediatric cardiology after all, but with a focus, developing heart surgery techniques for babies with genetic conditions. Emma has a heart murmur that might need intervention someday." Michael's heart swelled. "Grace would be proud. She always said you'd make your own path." "Not alone," Sarah corrected. "We've all made this path, together." At the brownstone that night, family movie night had expanded considerably. Emma and Sophie cuddled with Amelia while Sarah and Michael played chess. Jackie, adjusting to jet lag, offered commentary on their moves, slowly rebuilding her relationship with Michael through shared interests. "Check," Sarah announced, then looked up. "Quick question. Hopkins offered me a position on their cardiac AI research team, but USC wants me for their maternal health innovation center. What do you want?" Michael asked, studying their positions, both on the chessboard and in life. "Both," Sarah grinned. "Collaboration, not competition. Hopkins for research, USC for implementation. Travel between campuses, create a cross-country network of expertise." "Just like HeartGuard expanded," Emma observed, surprisingly astute for 8. "Exactly, little professor." Sarah ruffled her sister's hair. As bedtime approached, Sarah helped Michael tuck in the twins. Sophie's room featured artwork depicting guardian angels, always with hearts. "Good night, Mom Grace," Sophie whispered to a photo on her nightstand. "We saved more hearts today." "Good night, Mom Grace," Emma echoed. "Sarah's going to be the best heart doctor ever." In the hallway, Sarah and Michael shared a look of profound gratitude. These girls honored Grace's memory naturally, including her in their lives without diminishing their love for Amelia. "7 years ago today," Michael mused, "you found me in Central Park. Changed everything." "You were already changing," Sarah corrected. "I just gave you direction. And Grace gave us both everything we needed to find each other." That night, Michael reviewed Foundation statistics. 537 lives saved, 3,000 high-risk pregnancies successfully monitored, 12 community centers operational, 32 permanent jobs created in underserved neighborhoods, beyond numbers lived stories, families reunited, children with mothers who might otherwise have been orphaned, communities empowered through healthcare access. As Michael turned off his office light, he passed Sarah's door. She sat at her desk, coding new algorithms, medical journals spread around her. Emma's drawing of a family with hearts replacing heads decorated her wall. "Working late?" he asked. "Solving problems early," she responded. Emma's heart murmur classifications need refinement. The AI keeps missing subtle variations. Need help? Always. They worked together until dawn, father and daughter united in mission. Hearts, both literal and figurative, had led them down complex paths. Now they worked to ensure other families' journeys would be simpler, gentler, more hopeful than their own. Grace's love had created an ever-widening circle of healing. From one lost love and 12 lost years had grown a family, a foundation, and a future where mothers and children needn't be separated by cardiac complications. "Dad?" Sarah asked as sunrise painted their windows gold. "Think we can eliminate maternal cardiac deaths within our lifetime? With you leading the charge?" "Absolutely." Together they watched the new day begin, knowing their work honored both past love and future hope. The cemetery where Sarah had first shown Michael Grace's headstone had transformed. No longer a place of mourning, the Grace Matthews Memorial Garden bloomed with life. Cherry trees, benches where visitors found peace, and a small fountain where children tossed pennies for wishes. On this crisp autumn morning, 25 years, to the day after Grace's passing, 4 generations gathered. Michael, silver-haired and distinguished at 70, stood hand in hand with Amelia. Sarah, now 37 and a world-renowned cardiologist, adjusted the collar of her white coat. Emma and Sophie, grown into beautiful young women of 23, arranged wildflowers around their biological mother's memorial plaque, which had been placed beside Grace's years ago. Most precious of all was 5-year-old Grace, Sarah's daughter, with her husband Daniel, a genetic researcher she'd met during her medical residency. Little Grace carried a teddy bear that held a special secret, a miniaturized version of the HeartGuard technology, monitoring her for the genetic predisposition to cardiac complications she'd inherited from her grandmother. "Ready, everyone?" Sarah called, gathering the family close. Today marked more than an anniversary. The Grace Matthews Foundation had reached its audacious goal, 5,000 lives saved through early detection and intervention of pregnancy-related cardiac complications. Hospitals in 47 countries now operated HeartGuard programs. The maternal mortality rate from cardiac issues had dropped by 68% where their protocols were implemented. But today's announcement was even more meaningful. "It's time," Michael said softly, nodding to Sarah. Sarah stepped forward, her professional demeanor momentarily giving way to raw emotion. 25 years ago, we lost someone extraordinary. My mother, Grace Matthews, made the ultimate sacrifice, so I could live. She paused, composing herself. Today, we announce that Johns Hopkins and USC Medical Center have jointly approved the Grace Matthews protocol as standard care for all pregnancies worldwide. Applause erupted from the small gathered crowd, medical professionals, foundation staff, and families whose lives had been touched by their work. "But there's more," Sarah continued. "The breakthrough gene therapy Emma pioneered through her research has been approved for clinical trials. This therapy targets the specific genetic markers that caused my mother's condition, potentially eliminating the need for lifelong monitoring." Emma, who'd followed in her sister's footsteps toward medical research rather than clinical practice, wiped tears from her eyes. Her childhood heart murmur had inspired her life's work, finding permanent solutions rather than just monitoring systems. 3 generations of women, Sarah concluded, from Grace Matthews to my daughter Grace, have shaped this journey. What began as one woman's sacrifice has become humanity's gain. After the formal announcement, the family gathered at Grace's headstone. For a private moment, Michael knelt, placing a single white rose on the marble. "We did it, Grace," he whispered. Every promise fulfilled. Little Grace touched the photograph on the headstone. "That's who I'm named after, right, Mommy?" "Yes, sweetheart," Sarah answered. "Your grandmother had the biggest heart of anyone I've ever known. And you have her smile." Michael watched his granddaughter trace the inscription with tiny fingers. His mind drifted back to that fateful day in Central Park, when a determined 12-year-old had changed his life forever. The journey from that moment to this one had been filled with pain, healing, forgiveness, and ultimately transcendent love. "Sarah," he said as they walked back to their cars, "there's something I've been meaning to tell you." "What is it, Dad?" "I'm retiring from the Foundation's day-to-day operations. It's time for new leadership." Sarah nodded thoughtfully. "The twins are ready. Sophie's community outreach programs have revolutionized how we connect with underserved populations, and Emma's research speaks for itself. And you? Will you continue splitting time between clinical work and research?" Sarah's gaze found her daughter, running ahead with Amelia. "Actually, I've accepted the directorship of the new Global Maternal Health Initiative. It means more travel, more advocacy, less hands-on medicine." "Grace would approve," Michael said. "You've saved more mothers than any individual physician could through direct practice." "We all saved them," Sarah corrected. "Every person who believed in our mission, every family who shared their story, every donor who funded our work." Back at the brownstone, expanded over the years to accommodate their growing family but still in the same Queens neighborhood, they gathered for Sunday dinner. 4 generations around one table, sharing stories and dreams. "Aunt Jackie sends her regrets," Sophie announced, reading from her phone. "The Paris Center had an emergency, but she'll video call later." Jackie had found her purpose leading the Foundation's European expansion. Her organizational skills, once used to control Michael's life, now saved mothers across continents. Redemption came in unexpected forms. After dinner, Michael retreated to his study, where photographs chronicled their journey. Sarah at her high school graduation, the twins on their adoption day, Sarah's wedding, Emma receiving her research fellowship, Sophie breaking ground on the first community outreach center, his granddaughter's birth. Each image represented a victory over the deception that had nearly destroyed their family. "Penny for your thoughts," Amelia said, joining him. "Just reflecting on life's strange paths," he replied. "How loss led to discovery, discovery to purpose, purpose to family, and family to legacy, she completed, embracing him. Sarah appeared, in the doorway, her daughter on her hip. "Dad, little Grace has a question for you." The child's eyes, so like her grandmother's, held curiosity. "Grandpa, Mommy says you knew my other grandma a long time ago. Was she pretty?" Michael lifted the child onto his lap. "She was beautiful, inside and out, and she gave me the greatest gift of my life." "What was that?" Grace asked. "Your mother," he answered simply, "and through her, you, and someday, your children and their children. Grace's love continues through all of you." Later that evening, after everyone had gone home or to bed, Michael returned to his study to complete one final task. Opening his computer, he updated the Foundation's online memorial page with a simple message. 25 years ago today, Grace Matthews completed her earthly journey. Through her daughter Sarah, her granddaughter Grace, her adopted granddaughters Emma and Sophie, and the thousands of lives saved by the work done in her name, her love continues to change the world. Some might call what happened to us tragedy, but I've come to see it differently. Through loss we found purpose, through deception we found truth, through absence we found presence that transcends physical form. Grace's final heartbeat wasn't an ending, but a beginning. Every life saved through our work carries the rhythm of her love forward. Every child who grows up with their mother present, every family that remains whole, honors what Grace gave to us all. The dictionary defines grace as unmerited favor or blessing. How fitting that the woman who changed everything bore that name. None of us deserved the gifts her sacrifice brought, forth yet all have benefited from them. To those we've lost and those we've found. To mothers whose hearts beat strongly because of Grace's legacy. To families united rather than divided. This is our continuing promise. No mother's heart will fail for lack of care. No child will grow up motherless if science and compassion can prevent it. No family will face alone what we once faced in isolation. This is Grace's true memorial, not marble and flowers, but lives transformed and hearts beating in harmony with her enduring love. As Michael closed his computer, a sense of completion washed over him. The circle that began with heartbreak had expanded to encompass healing for countless families. Though they'd begin with trying to make sense of one woman's sacrifice, they'd created something far greater. A world where such sacrifices were increasingly unnecessary. Outside, the lights of Queens twinkled like the stars above. In this neighborhood, Michael had found the true meaning of wealth, not in market shares or luxury possessions, but in family bonds strengthened through shared purpose. The story that began with a young girl's determination to find her father had blossomed into a legacy that would outlive them all. As Michael finally drifted to sleep, he carried the certainty that Grace, wherever she was, could see what their love had built. And that knowledge brought the deepest peace he'd ever known.